hours, a chimney in the heart of Paris spat a black smoke that permeated the air with an unbearable stench. Alarmed neighbors called the police, unaware that they were unleashing the beginning of a macabre discovery. When officers went down to the basement, they discovered what can only be described as a horror scene. A dense atmosphere, the smell of burning still present in the air. Among the shadows, we could see remains of machinery used for unknown purposes. A table covered by an inert figure and a cage, open, as if someone or something was waiting for her. I was the owner of that room. I introduced myself as Marcel Petiot, leader of the resistance, claiming that my victims were Gestapo agents, traitors to the honor of France. The gendarmes, impressed by my courageous speech, let me go. Unbeknownst to them, they had just released one of the most lethal serial killers in history. My name is Marcel Henri Félix Petiot. I was born on January 17th, 1897 in Auxerre, south of Paris. My childhood was marked by chaos. From stolen weapons to school expulsions, my rebellion knew no bounds. Everything intensified in 1912, when my mother passed away. I had to move to my aunt's house, and my life changed radically. At the age of 17, my curiosity for the forbidden led me to steal all the mail from a mailbox. I was brought before a judge quietly, and after a psychological evaluation, I was released. But why? The psychiatrist who examined me had no hesitation in describing me as a young man with personal and hereditary problems that influenced my ability to understand the magnitude of my actions. My story in World War I began in November 1916. When I was sent to the front. After 6 months of combat, the war left me scarred, not only by physical wounds, but also by a gas attack that drove me to despair. My mental state of health deteriorated to the point of being sent to several rest homes, where doctors noted signs of mental imbalance, neurasthenia, depression, and phobias. It was in the psychiatric ward of 𝗺𝗲 that specialists finally put a name to my torment. September 1920 was a turning point in my life. After weeks of psychotic breaks, the army decided that my time as a soldier was over. I was stripped of my uniform and granted 100% disability. But who would have guessed that this would be the beginning of something different? Thanks to a program for veterans, I left behind the horror of war to graduate as a doctor in Paris. My career began in Villeneuve-sur-Yonne, a quiet village that would soon remember my name. But not for heroic reasons. In 1926, I became mayor, but my rise was as fleeting as it was controversial. Fraud, embezzlement. Between opiates, clandestine abortions, and the mysterious case of a missing young woman, my name began to be surrounded by suspicion, although the police never managed to prove anything. In June 1927, I married Georgette Leblay, daughter of a wealthy landowner. We had a son. The next 6 years were a constant game of evasion, with my reputation as a criminal following me like a shadow. Accusations of theft were added to my list, and the pressure grew until I decided to move to Paris, ready to restart my life in a less guarded environment and with a new medical practice. With the German invasion in 1940, I became a savior for some. I issued false medical certificates and offered comfort to returning soldiers. But my real role was hidden behind the alias Dr. Eugène. Under that identity, I helped Jews escape, selling false tickets to Argentina for 25,000 francs per person, or about 3,800 euros. What I was offering was not a way out, but a death trap. With the help of my collaborators, Raoul, Edmond, and René Gustave, we wove a web of false promises. My patients came to my practice with a clear objective: to escape to a new life. I promised them a passage to a promised future, and vaccines that guaranteed immunity from the diseases of those distant destinations. entire families and well-known businessmen. They all ended up sitting in my office with their suitcases ready and a dream that would never be fulfilled. Although they did not know it, that consultation would become their last destination. First, I took everything they owned. Then came the most complicated part, erasing any traces. At first, I tried to make them disappear in the Seine, avoiding leaving traces. But over time, I found more definitive ways. My reputation as a savior spread like wildfire among those desperate to flee. But the more my economy and notoriety grew, the closer I came to attracting a dangerous enemy, the Gestapo. The reason? My alleged links with the resistance silence. The Nazis did not take long to act. They tracked down my collaborators, interrogated them, and in a short time they pointed me out as part of a clandestine network of French rebels. I was arrested. The Nazis became suspicious of my activities, believing I was involved in smuggling Jews out of France. 8 months in the Frame prison, subjected to torture and interrogation. But they were not going to find anything, as the facade of helping Jewish refugees escape from the Nazi regime was just a sham to attract victims. I was finally released, as there was no solid evidence to confirm that I was directly linked to the resistance. On March 11, 1944, I made a drastic decision. I knew that the time had come to destroy all the evidence. How did I do it? With fire. I lit the crematorium oven, placed some of the most incriminating evidence, and left. But the treacherous chimney became my telltale, sending up a black smoke that alarmed the neighborhood and attracted the attention of the police. In front of them, I offered my only card, the truth, or at least my version of it. I presented myself as a resistance leader, claiming that the remains were those of Gestapo agents, and that they should destroy documents before they fell into enemy hands. They believed me and let me go, convinced of my patriotism. But what they found soon after in the cellar exceeded any excuse. 27 corpses, 72 suitcases, and 655 personal belongings. They were not enemies, but Jews seeking to escape the Nazi horror. My facade completely collapsed. For 7 months, I managed to outwit the authorities. I grew a beard, adopted the name Captain Valery, and joined the French troops to maintain my facade. Meanwhile, the police were looking for any fissure in my plan. They knew of my ego, of my need to defend my reputation, and they set a trap for me. They published an article in the newspaper accusing me of being a soldier of the Reich. How could I resist answering? I wrote a letter to the newspaper, denying every word and defending my honor. But that move revealed something crucial, my location. The speed with which they received my letter confirmed to them that I was still in Paris. They redoubled their surveillance. Every corner, every street was under the gendarmes' gaze. And finally, on November 2nd, 1944, I was arrested in a subway station. Among my belongings, I carried the proof of my double life, a pistol, more than 50 identity papers belonging to my clients, and nearly 5,000 euros. Was my downfall the result of my arrogance or simply an inevitable outcome? The final show, my trial, began on March 18th, 1945 at the court of the Seine. I was accused of murdering 27 people, but I had a ready-made defense. On the stand, I revealed my so-called patriotic mission. I belonged to the resistance. According to my account, I eliminated 19 members of the Gestapo, all in the name of France. But the court was not convinced. 3 weeks later, I was found guilty of 24 of the 27 murders and sentenced to the guillotine. On the day of my execution, May 25th, 1946, La Santé prison was the scene of my farewell. Before being executed, I uttered a phrase that remained engraved in the memories of those present. Gentlemen, I beg you not to look. It's not going to be pretty. For some, it was a show of cold blood. For others, the last attempt to control the scene until the end. In times of war, moral boundaries become blurred, and society becomes confused. That's where guys like me find their ground. But many others wearing their own masks continue to operate in the shadows. How many of them are closer than you imagine? If you liked this video, like it and subscribe for more shocking crime and mystery content. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. I was not alone in using power to manipulate and destroy lives. Decades later, in another corner of the world, Warren Jeffs, leader of a religious sect, would take control to the extreme. He used faith as a weapon, controlling his followers' every move, limiting their education and choosing their marriages. His hunger for power caused him to end up on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. Never turn off the light.